Hi, boys and girls. I am so happy to be here this morning sharing our next listening and learning video. As Miss Milk had shared with you, our next unit is called Immigration. And many of you on our Zoom meeting had shared where some of your ancestors have came from. I know my screen kept freezing up, so you may not have heard. My great grandparents actually they immigrated over from Italy and settled here and started their family. So my grandmother was born here in the United States, but her parents immigrated from Italy. So we're going to be talking about immigration and thinking about that. I want you to think about some food that many of you have probably had, like egg rolls, spaghetti, tacos. Um, did you know that those foods actually did not originate from the United States? Those foods can be found here because of immigration. So the immigration is the act of leaving one's homeland or home country and entering a new country and making a new life here. So the reason why we have egg rolls and spaghetti and tacos in the United States is because other people from other countries brought many of their customs and traditions, such as those foods, with them, and they made new lives here. So when immigrants come to the United States, they bring not just their food, but their native foods, but some traditions that they do. They also bring many great things to help the United States become the country that it is today. And we're going to learn about that over the next several days, okay, how immigration was important to the United States. And you'll hear why immigrants have come. Why do they continue to come to the United States? And what kind of hardships and opportunities immigrants have found upon arrival, and what it must be like to be a newcomer to the United States. Now, looking at this picture, you're probably wondering, what does this money have to do with immigration? Well, the first row up here is showing you the fronts of each coin. So here's the penny, our nickel, our dimes, quarter, and half dollar. I want you to take a look, and I'm going to draw your attention to this phrase that's on the back of each coin. So on the back of the penny right here is the words e pluribus unum. You can see those words here on the nickel. You can see them down here on the dime, up here on above the eagle's head on the quarter, and then on this banner here, you can see it above this eagle. So you may have heard those words before, but do you know what they mean? Well, e pluribus unum is Latin, which is an old language that's no longer spoken in regular conversation today. But the words mean out of many, one. Some nations have a motto or a saying that is a short way of sharing what that nation believes is important. So e pluribus unum, out of one, many, is the motto of the United States. So I want you to listen carefully to find out what connection the phrase e pluribus unum has, which means out of many, one, what the connection is between that and the immigration to the United States. I also want you to listen carefully to learn about some of the first immigrants to the United States and the reasons that brought and continue to bring immigrants to the United States. So here, I'll give you a moment to look. They're all bundled up, these people, and you can see this young girl is sitting on, looks to be luggage. Here's a question you may never asked yourself. Why would someone leave the home he or she knew, travel across a wide, rolling ocean, perhaps under uncomfortable or dangerous conditions, and move to an entirely new country? So why do you think someone would make such a dangerous and uncomfortable voyage? This is one question we have to think about if we're going to understand how the United States of America began and how it has become the country it is today. A nation made up of many different people from many different countries. The United States is sometimes called a country of immigrants. Immigrants are people who leave their home country to settle in a new country. Remember, settle means to make a new home. You may have learned about some of the people who traveled from Europe to the New World. Remember, European explorers like Christopher Columbus called North America the New World because it was a new discovery to them. This was long before there was a country called the United States, but there were already people living in North, South, and Central America and on some of the islands in the Caribbean Sea. We use the term Native American to refer to those, like the Wampanoag and the Lakota Sioux, who were already living in North America before the Europeans arrived. Maybe you remember the Maya and the Aztec people who lived in Mexico, or the Inca whose empire spread across Peru, Chile, and other islands in South America. To these groups, the places where they lived were not new at all because their ancestors, the relatives who came before them, had lived there for centuries. And here you might recognize this picture of this ship. Whoops, my mouse is being so silly today. I'm going to actually move this over a little bit. So Europeans traveled to the New World for many different reasons. For example, Christopher Columbus came looking for a shortcut from Europe to Asia. Spanish explorers such as Cortes came looking for wealth. Later, more people came from Europe that were not just explorers. Some wanted to bring their religion to the people already living here. Some were poor men and women who thought there was a chance to make money to take back to their homeland, where they hoped to lead easier, more comfortable lives with their new wealth. Others were adventurers attracted to the excitement of a new place. The greater number of these travelers to North and South America did not actually want to settle in the Americas and make the New World their home for good. Instead, they wanted to return to their own home countries after gaining some wealth or making new discoveries. Much later, a group of people we call the Pilgrims were looking for a place where they could follow their own religion without being told what to believe by the King of England. Back in England, they were known as separatists, and they lived in fear of being arrested and thrown in jail for not having the same religious beliefs as their king. In order to meet together and practice their religion without fear, they decided to leave England behind. They hoped that there would be plenty of room in the New World in which to have the freedom to live and practice their religion in their own way. Remember, freedom is the ability to choose how you do something. The Pilgrims were not the very first settlers in the New World, part of which we now call the United States. They were important, however, because they helped to set an example by doing something new and different. So what is an immigrant? An immigrant is someone who comes from another country to settle in a new place. Do you remember the question I asked at the beginning of the lesson? Why might someone leave the home he or she knew and move to an entirely new country? Move my picture around here a moment so you can really look at this screen. So you can see a military truck, see some flooding, some devastation on these buildings. These people are holding plates, maybe looking for food. Reasons why immigrants leave their homes and come to live in a new country are push and pull factors. Factors are the reasons that something happens or doesn't happen in a certain way. So push factors are the problems in one's home country that would push you out of your country or make you leave. For many immigrants, money problems, trouble in their home government, and or lack of religious freedom have pushed people to immigrate or move to a new country. And here is another group of different photos here. On the other hand, having more freedom and more job opportunities than are available to them in their homelands have pulled or encouraged people to immigrate to the United States of America. There are many freedoms, such as the freedom of religion and freedom of speech, that are protected by the American government. These freedoms and other opportunities have attracted people to the United States. So it's pulled them to the United States. And this image you probably recognize is the back of a dollar bill. And it's showing us here those words, e pluribus unum. Although many immigrants come from different places and come for many different reasons, they all become part of the United States of America. Americans have come from many nations and have brought many ways of thinking in order to form one nation that allows and encourages different beliefs among people. E pluribus unum meaning out of many, one, in Latin is a good motto for the United States. Remember the coins I showed you? If you look on the back of any US coin or on the back of any US dollar bill, you can find this motto. So here is a collage of Americans from many different backgrounds. Okay, whoops. Today's Americans are either immigrants themselves or they come from a long line of immigrants before them. This means that most Americans' ancestors were immigrants. In the days ahead, you will hear fascinating stories about some early immigrants. You will also learn more about the enormous risks people took to immigrate to the United States. You will learn about the many hardships or difficulties immigrants faced when they first arrived in their new country. As you will learn, it's a chance new immigrants are still taking today.